No, it got cut. Well, it got cut, but I'm adding this little piece on because they cut it right at the time, as soon as he started to read Arabic, Allah sent a wind. And that wind was so, I don't say loud because it wasn't a screeching wind. It was a sound of wind that made all the trees that were bordering the grave do sajda. So as soon as he started to read the Arabic, when he finished the English, the trees all around did this. Woo, 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 up and down. They bent. That was the end of the grave at that point in time. But now that they cut me off, I'm going to put some additionals in that I hadn't planned on because I was cut off. So Allah wanted this so that I could finish the story. Everyone left because Irish wakes, wake is what you do after the death. Irish wakes are always drinking, laughing, music, noise. They're not solemn like in Egypt. They call it the Az. Everyone's quiet. No. Irish people are never quiet anyway. I mean, we're Irish American, but we have the traditions. So I went back to the house, but before, this is the best part. My Lebanese Christian friend, by the way, her name is Hani Nasrallah. Now listen to her name, Nasrallah, Nasrallah. It's even in the Quran, in a surah. It's called Surah An-Nasr. And it begins by saying, إِذَا جَاءَ نَصْرُ اللَّهِ وَالْفَتْحُ. Now, this woman's name is Nasrullah, but she's Christian. She's Maronite Christian. It's a long story about the Maronite Christians. They live in the mountain, and it's an inherited thing. She wasn't a religious type. Her sister was. Her sister was very religious. She used to pray at the statue of Mary on Maghrib, I recall. She'd pray many times in the day when she woke, when she slept, but I don't know enough about that religion other than it's Christian. She taught me my Alif Bet before I was a Muslim. She was my friend in college before I even got my bachelor's degree. And she was a very friendly, she lived in my area and she's very friendly. I liked her and we would go for lunch, breakfast, we'd see each other in the university. It was fun. And I asked her, could you please help me learn the Arabic letters? Because I found them fascinating. I found them beautiful. The look of them, the script really, really attracted me. And I had made a short vacation with my husband at that time to Morocco. And I went in one of these shops where they sell things to tourists. They call it Tahaf. Pretty things. Picture frames, vases, book stands. And of course, Morocco, there would be all this beautiful leather. So you could get a hassock, or you could get, which I got the hassock and a purse. And just Morocco's amazing. So, as I told you, I was not a Muslim. I was even being a little bit foolish when the tour bus stopped. They had that man with the pipe and the snake twirls around and he comes out of his basket and he goes up and he's doing this with his head, the snake, as the man is playing the pipe. And we're all standing around, tourists watching, and the man grabs me. Allah wanted this though. It was a sign. And he puts the snake, he took hold of my hand, he puts the snake in my hand. Well, I don't know, I just stood there with the snake in my hand. And everyone was freaking out. Like, why don't I just throw it back at him or just run? I don't know, just put the snake in my hand, I just held on to it. The things I did in my life, I don't know. Anyway, let's get back to the story of my Lebanese friend. She agreed. So she came to my house one day and she said, well, this is going to take a while. You know, the Arabic letters, they have 4 different formats. Each letter has 4 shapes, depending if it's in the beginning of the word or the end of the word or the middle of the word or alone. These are the letters themselves. And she was a bit hesitant because she knew what I was getting myself into, but I didn't care. I just wanted it. And then she said something extremely, at the time I was floored. She said, you know, English is really like a pretty primitive language. She said, there's so many dialects and accents, and when you speak English, you sound like you have a mouthful of hot potatoes. And I said, what? She said, it's not precise. When you speak Arabic, each letter has its haq, its sound. And then she starts to go into how she suffered with phonetics and, you know, the AE, AI, you know, all the difficulties that foreigners have achieving mastery in the English language when they're adults. It's easier in Arabic because they didn't grow up with it and they didn't speak it. And then, you know, all the broken plurals, they're crazy. There's no rhyme or reason to them. Anyway, we finished and I did it. And as she was leaving, she looked at the wall in the dining room. And I had a couple of pictures that I got in Jordan. And I had a couple of ceramic plates that I had bought in one of the Moroccan tohaf stores. Tohaf means something special. You know, you want to display it in your house. And she looked at the wall and she said, who told you to put them in that order, the plates? It was one above another. I said, I don't know. I just thought it looked pretty that way. She said, well, you know what you just did? You put Allah, and under Allah you put Muhammad. It was written on there. She said, nobody told you to do that? I said, no, I just thought that's how it looked good. She said, how about these 2 pictures of these forts that you have going on here? I said, I don't know. I like the desert. I always loved the desert. And I just thought they were very antique-y, because when you go around Jordan and you go on these tour trips, they will tell you, oh, this is Ma'an, this is Tabuk. And they have pictures of it. Not art, not drawn in oil or anything, just photos, and then they blow them up, and then you can buy a frame. She said, what made you choose those pictures? I said, I don't know. I like them. She said, those are the Muslim battles, you know. Now, I was not a Muslim.